The crowd roared under the dazzling lights of Madison Square Garden as Savannah, the star-spangled stinger, Caldwell strutted into the ring, draped in red, white, and blue, with her blonde ponytail whipping from side to side. She grinned at the cameras like she had already won. Her muscular arms flexed as she raised them, soaking in the cheers and chants. Savannah was undefeated, loved by fans, media, and sponsors. To them, she was the embodiment of American pride. But it wasn't just about winning tonight. It was about proving a point. Across the ring stood Amara King, a quiet, composed woman from Detroit. She wore no flashy colors, just a deep green Nike set, her hair braided back neatly. There were no rules for her, only murmurs. She had arrived without fanfare, without a major sponsor, without a single interview. She didn't fit the media's mold of what a boxing star should be. To many in the arena, she was invisible. That's exactly how Savannah wanted it. You see, this fight wasn't originally scheduled. Savannah had publicly called Amara out in a viral social media post, mocking her low ranking, her upbringing, even her quiet demeanor. "Let's make this charity work," she had joked. "I'll give the underdog a taste of what a real boxer feels like." The promoters ate it up. In truth, Amara didn't want the spotlight. But when she saw Savannah laughing on national television, suggesting she'd take it easy on the little girl from the hood, Amara didn't hesitate to accept the fight. From the moment the bell rang, Savannah danced around with cocky flair, taunting Amara between jabs. "Come on, show me what you've got," she sneered, throwing punches at Gray's Amara's shoulders. The crowd laughed as Savannah showboated, spinning and winking to crowd. Her punches were fast, powerful, but wild. She wanted to humiliate, not just defeat. Amara, however, stayed quiet, focused. Her eyes never left Savannah's. The first round passed. Savannah dominated in flair, but Amara was untouched. By round 2, the energy shifted. Savannah's smirks began to fade. Her punches didn't land as easily. Amara wasn't flashy, but she was precise. Every step she took, every movement, was calm and calculated. She absorbed the ring like a chessboard, letting Savannah's ego move recklessly while she observed, waited. A jab to Savannah's ribs, another to her chin. Clean, quick, quiet. By the 4th round, the cheers in the crowd turned into confused murmurs. Savannah's face was reddening, not just from the hits, but from the realization that this wasn't going her way. In round 5, Amara struck. A brutal right hook split the air, landing squarely on Savannah's jaw. The arena went silent as Savannah stumbled back, blinking in disbelief. Then came a flurry, uppercut, jab, jab, hook. Amara's gloves were lightning, her movement relentless. Savannah hit the canvas. The referee began to count. 1, 2, 3. Savannah tried to get up, but her legs buckled beneath her. The once cocky queen of the ring lay stunned. 9, 10. She's out. The bell rang. The crowd erupted, not in the cheers of nationalism they'd started with, but in stunned awe. A few stood and clapped. Others just stared. Amara didn't raise her arms. She didn't scream. She simply walked to her corner, picked up her towel, and nodded once. In the post-fight interview, reporters swarmed her. "How did you beat Savannah? What message do you have for fans? What does this victory mean?" She looked into the camera and said softly, "Sometimes the loudest voice in the room is the one that needs to be heard least. Let your actions speak. Let your silence shake walls." The video went viral. Overnight, the media turned. Headlines read, "The Quiet Queen Strikes Back." From overlooked to overwhelming, Amara King shocks the boxing world. Savannah Caldwell silenced. Brand offers began pouring in for Amara. Talk shows begged for interviews. Young girls, especially those from neighborhoods like hers, called her their new hero. Savannah? She went silent on social media. Days later, she posted a black screen with just 2 words. "I deserved it." But this wasn't just about a fight. It was about humility, about how arrogance, privilege, and noise crumble in the face of quiet strength and preparation. Amara didn't fight to humiliate. She fought because she had nothing to prove to the world, only to herself. And that made her unstoppable. The days after the fight felt like a whirlwind for Amara King. She didn't crave the fame that now followed her like a shadow. Wherever she went, training gyms, grocery stores, even quiet parks, someone would recognize her. Someone would stop and say, "You inspired me." And though she would nod politely, offer a humble thank you, inside, she wrestled with the uncomfortable truth. This was never her dream. Boxing was survival. Boxing was how she fed her family when the rent notices piled up. Boxing was how she processed pain when her father died, how she protected her brother from the streets, how she turned silence into strength. It was never about lights, fans, or headlines, but now the world demanded she be a star. The media tried to make her into a symbol, the voice of the voiceless. Companies offered millions ad deals, provided she smiled more, talked louder, wore designer gear. Some even asked her to recreate the Savannah knockout punch for commercials. Amara declined every single one. Her focus remained unshaken. In a small gym on the east side of Detroit, she trained harder than ever. Every morning at 4 a.m., she ran 5 miles through cracked sidewalks and chilly air. By sunrise, she was in the gym, jump rope, bag work, shadow boxing, sparring. Her coach, a tough but quiet man named Earl Brick Branson, had trained dozens of fighters, but never one quite like Amara. "She don't talk much," he once said to a journalist, "but her fists got sermons in them." Despite her rising fame, Amara kept her team small. Her younger brother Malik handled logistics. Her mother, recovering from a stroke, stayed in a nearby rehab center. Amara visited her every day without fail, holding her hand and reading to her from her father's old journals. Still, behind her quiet determination, trouble brewed. Savannah Caldwell was not done. The loss had shaken her to her core, not just physically, but emotionally. She had spent her life being praised, protected, and promoted. She was the golden girl. But now, that title was gone, stripped in a single night by a woman the media once ignored. And Savannah couldn't take it. Behind closed doors, she hired a new trainer. Ruthless, expensive, European champion, Viktor Radovich, known for breaking bones and training to toughen his fighters. She went silent online but spent every waking moment in high-altitude camps, building strength, rebuilding her ego. 1 year later, headlines announced the unthinkable. Rematch set, Savannah versus Amara 2, The Reckoning. The media spun it as redemption. Savannah's team called it the return of the real champion. Pundits debated it endlessly. Some said Amara would dominate again. Others claimed Savannah had evolved, grown darker, more dangerous. Amara said nothing. She simply trained. As the rematch drew closer, Savannah launched a PR blitz. She appeared on late-night shows, talking about how she was humbled, how she respected Amara now. But her smile never reached her eyes. She posted training videos that looked like war footage. Steel chains, ice baths, broken noses. She wanted blood. Amara, on the other hand, spent her final week before the fight visiting Detroit high schools, talking quietly to girls about self-worth, about staying grounded. She never mentioned the fight. Her message was clear. You don't have to scream to be strong. Fight night. The arena was electric. Bigger venue, bigger audience, broadcasted worldwide. Savannah entered first, dark hood over her face, music thundering. Her new look was grim. No colors, no smiles, just war paint and fury. Amara entered with no music, no entourage, just her brother Malik, holding her gloves. The moment the bell rang, the world held its breath. Savannah came out like a storm. Fast, violent, technical. Every punch was a statement. I am not who I was. Amara absorbed. She bobbed. She weaved. Her eyes didn't blink. Her breathing remained calm. The first 4 rounds were brutal. Savannah had improved, sharpened her skills, controlled her emotions. She even landed a blow that snapped Amara's head sideways, drawing blood from her lip. But Amara smiled. Not mockingly, not arrogantly. It was a kind of smile that said, "You've woken something in me." By round 6, Amara flipped the tempo. Her jabs found Savannah's ribs. Her footwork confused her. Every punch came from angles that Savannah couldn't anticipate. The ring, which once felt like a stage for her performance, now became a prison closing in. By round 8, Savannah's breathing was ragged. Her arms slowed. Her punches, wild again. And then, just like before, Amara struck. Uppercut, jab, hook, combo. Savannah hit the mat. This time, not from arrogance, but from exhaustion. From being outmatched by something she didn't understand. Not noise, not rage, but discipline. The bell rang. TKO, Amara King retains title. The crowd exploded, but Amara didn't jump. She didn't scream. She knelt in the center of the ring, whispered a silent prayer, and looked toward the rafters, where her father used to sit during her childhood matches. Later, when asked what she thought about Savannah's transformation, she said only, "Everyone deserves redemption. But sometimes, before you rise, you have to sit with your fall." I sat with mine. Now, I stand for more than myself. 5 years had passed since Amara King changed boxing forever. Her name was no longer just tied to knockouts or gold belts. It had become a global symbol for truth, integrity, and unshakable resolve. After the fall of the corrupt federation, sports across the world restructured to include transparency, diversity, and most of all, accountability. Amara's foundation, the Quiet Rise, had become a global beacon for rising athletes with no voices, no connections, but undeniable fire in their souls. But on one particular rainy afternoon in Nairobi, Amara encountered something, or rather, someone, that would reignite her fighting spirit in a way she hadn't felt in years. Her plane had just landed from Johannesburg, where she had been speaking at a youth empowerment summit. She visited local gyms, shaking hands, giving quiet advice, and scouting talent. But the trip was about more than boxing. It was about listening, about seeing the unseen. That's when she saw her. In the corner of a rusted gym on the outskirts of Kibera stood a Bayford girl, thin, silent, no gloves, no gear. She punched the wall, not a bag, not a pad, the wall. She didn't flinch. Her fists bled. Her eyes didn't blink. Amara stood frozen. There was something eerie, almost spiritual about the rhythm of the girl's movements. No coach guided her. No crowd watched. She trained like no one was ever going to notice, but Amara did. "Who is she?" she whispered to the gym owner. "Calls herself Zula," the old man replied, "from the refugee block by the train yard. Speaks very little. Parents disappeared during the civil raids in Sudan. Comes here every day. Won't let anyone train her." Amara nodded. She understood. Chapter 2. The Scar Beneath the Skin. Zula was 17. She had no official records, no birth certificate, no passport. Everything she knew was carried in her memory and sealed behind her silence. When Amara approached her, Zula didn't look up. She simply wiped the blood from her knuckles and turned back to face the wall. Amara didn't say much. She didn't need to. She left a pair of gloves behind on the bench, whispering, "When you're ready." It took Zula 3 days to put them on. And once she did, the gym stopped in its tracks. Zula's punches were violent poetry, each strike perfectly timed, fierce, and full of rage masked in rhythm. Her footwork was untrained but instinctive, like she had been fighting ghosts her whole life. Amara took her in, not as a project, not as a protege, as a mirror of the girl she once was. But it wasn't just a talent that haunted Amara, it was something else. A scar deep across Zula's ribcage. Not from a knife, not from a fall. A surgical scar. Clean. Professional. Amara's instincts whispered danger. Chapter 3. The Secret Inside Her. Over the next few months, Zula trained in silence. Amara taught her footwork, rhythm, defense, breathing. But she didn't just teach Zula to fight. She taught her why to fight. "You don't swing to destroy," she said. "You swing to declare. Your fists are not violence. They are language." Zula soaked it all in, but never spoke a word about her past. Until one night, a single sentence, whispered in the dark after a long training session. "They put something inside me." Amara froze. "What do you mean?" she asked gently. Zula looked her in the eye, voice barely a breath. "I escaped the compound. I'm not just a refugee. I'm evidence." Amara's heart dropped. Chapter 4. The Shadow Network. In the weeks that followed, Amara's team dug deep into Zula's past, using underground contacts, retired journalists, even her old lawyer. The truth unraveled like a political thriller. Zula had escaped a covert experimental training camp posing as a medical relief facility in the war-torn border of Sudan. Girls and boys were taken from orphanages and slums, injected with performance enhancers, trained as combat athletes for international betting syndicates. Not all survived. Zula did. She ran, and now they were looking for her. But Zula didn't want to hide. "I want to fight," she said simply. "You already are," Amara replied. "But not just in the ring." Chapter 5. Rise of the Phoenix. Amara pulled every string she could. Zula was granted asylum. She received a legal identity. Within a year, she was cleared to compete in amateur fights under the Quiet Rises Protection Program. Her debut was a small match in Cape Town, barely 200 people in attendance. But that night, the world felt her arrival. 3 rounds, 1 knockout. The sound of her final punch echoed like thunder in the small hall. Zula wasn't just strong. She was terrifyingly controlled. And her silence, that became her weapon. She refused interviews, refused sponsors. She let her fists do the speaking, just like Amara once did. The media dubbed her the Phoenix from the Ashes. But darker forces were watching too. Chapter 6. The Threat Returns. Weeks after her 3rd fight, Amara received an anonymous video message. Grainy footage. A child screaming. A dark room. A voice saying, "You protect one of ours. You've made a mistake." They had found Zula. Amara immediately doubled security, alerted Interpol, and contacted the ethical commission that had helped her take down the Federation years ago. But this wasn't about boxing anymore. This was a global human trafficking ring, tied to illegal betting, dirty politics, even corrupt humanitarian fronts. Amara knew what came next. She went public, not with names, yet, but with a televised message. "I once took on a corrupt sport with nothing but my fists. I didn't swing for belts. I swung for truth. And I'll do it again. This time, we're coming for the monsters in the shadows. You can't outrun the light forever." Chapter 7. 2 warriors, 1 legacy. Zula kept fighting. Her wins grew louder. Her story spread wider. Young girls across continents wrote her letters. Mothers named their daughters after her. She became more than a fighter. She became hope. And through it all, Amara stood by her. Not as a coach, not even as a protector, but as a sister in battle. In a quiet moment before Zula's championship qualifier, Amara placed a gloved hand on her shoulder. "You don't owe them rage," she said. "You owe yourself freedom." Zula nodded, and for the first time since they met, she whispered, "I'm not afraid anymore." 3 days before Zula's World Championship fight in London, a letter arrived for Amara King. No name, no address, just a symbol. 2 interlocked rings. The same logo found on one of the secret files she uncovered years ago when she dismantled the corrupt boxing federation. Inside was a note. "Pull the girl from the fight. This is your final warning. She doesn't belong on that stage. Neither did you. The system may crack, but it never dies." Amara's fingers tightened as she read the words. It wasn't just a threat. It was a promise. Someone powerful, possibly more powerful than those she'd already brought down, was watching, and they were afraid of one thing. A girl who should have never survived standing tall in front of the whole world. She folded the letter and placed it inside her coat pocket. Then she whispered to herself, "That's exactly why she has to fight." Chapter 2. The Weigh-In. Zula stood across from her opponent, Lucia Petrova, a decorated Eastern European fighter with a terrifying record. Lucia had risen fast, her matches all ending in violent KOs. But her eyes, they were empty, cold, mechanical. Amara had seen those eyes before. Lucia was a product of the same system Zula escaped. Only difference? Lucia stayed. Amara watched as the weigh-in ended. Lucia leaned in and muttered something to Zula in Russian. Zula didn't flinch. But later, in the locker room, she quietly translated it for Amara. She said, "You escaped the cage, but I am the cage." Chapter 3. The Night of Fire. Fight night. The O2 arena was packed with fans, journalists, athletes, and cameras from every continent. It was more than a title match. It was history. Zula walked to the ring draped in a long green robe. No sponsors, no flashy logos. Just one word embroidered in gold across the back. Truth. Amara followed, calm as ever, walking behind her student, her sister, her successor. The bell rang. Lucia came out swinging. Pure aggression. Her punches weren't just powerful, they were brutal. Engineered. Every move was designed to break, not win. Zula took hits. She stumbled early. Round 1, Lucia's. Round 2, Lucia again. But Amara didn't panic. She knew Zula wasn't breaking. She was measuring. And in round 3, it happened. Zula stopped backing up. She stepped forward. The sound of her glove connecting with Lucia's body was like thunder. A left hook, a body shot, an uppercut that snapped Lucia's head back. The crowd screamed. In round 4, Zula dominated. By round 6, Lucia was breathing through her mouth, eyes wide with disbelief. This wasn't the refugee girl she was told to destroy. This was something else. This was a storm. In round 8, Lucia charged one final time. But Zula pivoted, ducked, and landed a single, devastating cross straight to the temple. Lucia collapsed. KO. Zula wins. Chapter 4. After the bell. The world erupted. Cameras flashed. Commentators shouted. Reporters cried. But Zula didn't celebrate. She turned to Amara. They embraced silently in the center of the ring. In that moment, the past and the future met. 2 generations. One legacy. But it wasn't over yet. That night, Zula stood on the championship podium and, for the first time in public, spoke into the microphone. I am not a ghost. I am not your experiment. I am not what you tried to bury. I am the proof that your darkness didn't win. The crowd fell silent. You took my parents. You scarred my body. You chased me across borders. But you forgot one thing. You trained me to fight. And now, I fight you. She held up a small device, a flash drive. The camera panned in. On the screen above the arena, a video began playing. Footage from the facility. Children. Cells. Injections. Training footage. Names. Faces. Logs. The world saw everything. Within hours, governments responded. Investigations were launched. Arrests were made. Secret operations shut down. Whistleblowers came forward. Amara had started the fight. Zula finished it. Chapter 5. The final round. Months later, Amara King stood before the United Nations in Geneva, awarded the Global Justice Medal for her role in not only transforming sports, but in exposing international corruption and human trafficking rings. She didn't speak long. I threw my first punch because I was tired of being invisible. I threw my last punch so others never had to be. When she returned to Detroit, the Quiet Rise gym had grown, no longer a single building, but a network of centers around the world. Zula now trained others. She refused all endorsement deals. She traveled from war zones to refugee camps, building rings and passing on the gloves. They called her the champion of the voiceless. One day, years later, a little girl in a rusted gym asked her, "Will you fight again?" Zula smiled. "No," she said. "I already won." The end.